In this video, I want to explain how to solve a monic quadratic. When we're talking about a quadratic equation, we just mean the term out of all the terms here, the term with the highest exponent is the one that has 2 as its exponent. So this refers to the entire equation being a quadratic equation. When we say monic quadratic, that just means the leading coefficient or the number in front of the x squared term is the number 1. Since we don't usually write in the number 1 when we have a coefficient, that doesn't mean that there isn't a number there. It's just you don't see the need for writing that. That's all a monic quadratic means. Monic meaning the x squared term has a leading coefficient, has a coefficient of 1. And the quadratic just means out of all the terms, the term with the highest exponent is the one that has an exponent of 2. Now, we're asked to solve the equation x squared minus 6x plus 7 equals 0. We need to find the values of x, whether it's one value or 2, that will make this statement true. That will make this entire quadratic expression become equal to 0. And so here are the steps for how to find that out. Step 1 says the following. From the general equation, x squared plus rx plus s equals 0. Identify the r and s values from the given equation. This is the given equation here. All right. So what that means is, in terms of identifying r, it's strictly the coefficient or the number that's in front of the x term. So we should only have a number. We are not including the letter x. So in this case, the number that's in front of the x for our given equation is -6. That's our r value. Our s value is strictly the constant, the only term that is a number. It doesn't have an x attached to it. In this case, it's the number 7, so s is 7. And that's step 1. Step 2 then says, write the formula from theorem 3.1. Right, this was found in the previous page of your notes. By the way, this is found on page 4, in case you were wondering. The equation is x equals negative r plus minus the square root of r squared minus 4rs, all of that divided by the number 2. All right, that's the formula. Step 3 now says, replace r and s in the formula from step 2. So here's how it's going to look. Now I have a negative r, so I'm going to put the negative there still, but the r value itself is the number -6. So I'm going to put -6 in parentheses. Anytime you have an r or s value that is a negative number, make sure you keep that in parentheses. Plus or minus the square root of r squared. Remember, our r value is -6, and since it's a negative, it will be in parentheses. And then I will put the squared, or the exponent of 2, on the outside. Minus 4 times the s value, which in this case is the number 7, so that's where that goes. All of it, again, divided by the number 2. All right. Step 4 just says, now we're going to simplify. By simplifying, that just means I'm going to, I'm going to change signs where I need to. I need to multiply things out, and we want to eventually get an answer or multiple answers here. So we're starting off with the negative r, which was -6. Well, negative times a negative is a positive, so that becomes +6. Plus minus, again, don't worry, we'll cover what plus minus means in a moment. We have -6 raised to the second power. Now that's the same thing as writing -6 times -6, and a negative times a negative, we already said, is a positive. So 6 times 6 becomes 36. We have a negative times a positive, that stays negative. 4 times 7 is the number 28. And all of it divided by 2. In order to continue, we're going to just subtract the numbers inside the square root. We have 6 plus minus square root of 36 minus 28 is strictly the number 8. Now at this point, you may be wondering, I can't take the square root of 8 and get a whole number, so what should I do? Well, it helps if we can factor the number 8 into two numbers that where you can take the square root of one of the factors. So if I were to ask you what the factors of 8 are, there are a number we can choose from, 1 and 8, but that wouldn't change anything. Let's try 4 and 2. All right. Now, because I can take the square root of 4, I'm gonna pull this answer out, and I'm gonna leave the 2 inside the square root. If I were to remove the 4 by taking the square root of 4, I would get 2. And then, so the square root of 4 is the number 2, so that's going to be on the outside of the square root, which leaves me the number 2 on the inside. So these are the same things. It's just that the 4 I could take the square root of, the 2 I can't take the square root of and get a whole number. And all of that's still divided by 2. Now at this point, you may think, is there anything else we can do? Because it looks like we can't simplify this any further. Well, just remember, you have to check the denominators to see if I can actually, pull off the division. Can I simplify that further? Well, yes, you can. What you end up with is the following. Just a little bit more. And so if I do 6 over 2, that gets me the number 3. If I do 2 over 2, that gets me 1. And I have 3 plus or minus. Now, 2 over 2 is just 1, but I still have that square root of 2 there. Okay? So the plus minus, you see this in your notes directly under step 4. The sign plus minus means plus and minus. So we actually have two answers here. X is equal to 3 plus the square root of 2 and 3 minus the square root of 2. So there are two solutions here. And you could actually check my work. You could plug this back in for x here and there and see if that gets the whole quadratic set equal to 0. And then you can plug in 3 minus the square root of 2 here and there and see if that also gets you an answer of 0 as a result. And so that's how we solve this monic quadratic using this theorem. So I hope that was helpful.